Hey, what's going on, guys? Nickatnyte here, and welcome back to some more Mega Crab. So in the first episode, we went from stages 1 to 10. In today's episode, I'm going to be going from stages 11 to 15, and that is simply because as the stages progress, just like the last time we played the Mega Crab, they start to take longer. And in addition to not wanting to take up a lot of your guys' time, it is difficult to get these recordings all pieced together in under like 15 or 20 minutes. Now, here we're taking on stages 11 through 15, like I said. Currently, though, I'm a little bit further, and I'm grinding up the levels. So if you're ever in the US and look at the leaderboards, maybe take a glance and see if I'm there. People are already being ridiculous though. I logged off in like the top 5 and logged on to do my next batch of attacks in not even the top 50. And then by the time I was done with them, I was back in the top 50. So it's crazy, but I know in the long run, after 3 days, there are just going to be players that analyze each base a little better than I do probably. And maybe Scorcher and Tank is not the best attack strategy for every base. And that will be where me taking 2 or 3 attacks to finish a base and other people doing it in 1 or 2 is going to give them the edge. Now here we have stage 11. Nothing too crazy. If you guys have any awesome experiences, feel free to tweet them at me about this Mega Crab 2.0. One thing to keep in mind is those cryo bombs can do some work to Zukas. If you're doing all Zukas, if you're doing some heavy Zuka, like on this base here, you might actually be able to smoke Zukas all the way to that back corner where those shield generators are. However, it was too easy for me up until stage 15 to just do a quad boost and then just get my Scorchers and Tanks right in there and deal some massive damage. If you don't have Scorchers, some people were asking me what are some better strategies for HQ like 14, 15, 16, 17. I would stick with the tanks and medics. They seem to be the most powerful. Just make sure in advance you're hitting your cryo bombs before your tanks are going to be affected by them, because that slow really hurts. And you want to make sure you're focusing on obviously boom cannons and cannons if you're using all tanks with your artillery and barrage, and that way the tanks can deal just fine with the machine guns, the flamethrowers, sniper towers, shock launchers, yes, rocket launchers will be countered out by the medics behind them. You can also try to experiment with some grenadiers behind the tanks or some heavies and grenadiers. That big boy attack strategy, that should pummel well through a lot of splash damage buildings. Now it really depends on the base, and if you want to get super technical, you should scout each Mega Crab base and then look at what parts are going to be the hardest. Like on this one here, if I scouted, I could probably see that all Scorchers might be a slight better advantage than Scorchers and tanks, but once again, it's only stage 12, so it shouldn't be too tough for my troops because of their massive amounts of boost they have going on right now. This base is a little bit ludicrous, just a boatload of critters over there on the right side, and they're about to all be unleashed from just a couple batches that I threw myself. Now right there is a massive cryo bomb explosion, damaging all those buildings and slowing them. There's also, looking in the future there, going to be a lot of mines that my Scorchers are going to run through, so I throw a barrage just to initially get ready for it. Looking over here though, there are a few cannons, there's a few sniper towers, but there's not a lot of boom cannons on this base, so it's really not going to be too challenging for my Scorchers, especially backed by tanks and critters mixed in here and there, to just swarm through stage 12. This is going to be a pretty sweet Mega Crab run. I'm excited to hopefully get to, I don't know, maybe like upper 20s, low 30s at best, because I could see once you get to like stage 25, taking at least 4 attacks to take down some of these bases, even at 10 full offensive boosts. If you guys have an experience or attack strategy that is working the best against the cryo bomb, in your opinion, definitely let me know. I'm also open to changing out a few boats to have non-tank units to make sure my gunboat energy is slightly reduced when deploying all my troops on the beach, or beach in quotes there, because it's like a metal Mega Crab beach. We've got the Scorchers here, and they're just going to be getting right onto that core. We've got the tanks, and they're going to be following it up and just unloading on stage 12 right here. So we got just a few seconds left, just shock bombing whatever I can. My gunboat level 22 paired with 5, a masterpiece and 4 guardians, all gunboat, is definitely useful when taking down the Mega Crab. Here we go, we've got back to the clouds and some decent loot. I actually haven't upgraded yet from stage 1 to 13 any defensive building. I remember that once we were playing the 7-day Mega Crab, I've started getting just an upgrade almost every 2 levels or 3 levels, but that was when I was into the 30s or upper 20s when the loot just gets insane. It could be useful if you have one in your statue storage, or if you don't have a statue storage yet, just in general, to have a boosted resource reward masterpiece, because that would be bringing in like 50% more loot, or even 75%. I'm not sure what boosted it can get up to, but I know you can get around like 40% more loot, so maybe even 80%. That could be crazy. Just doubling your loot on the Mega Crab could just make for a very profitable experience if you're trying to get things done. I do still only have 4 landing craft that are not max level, but like I was saying before in the last episode, for tanks and Scorchers that doesn't make a difference. It will though if you're using Riflemen or Zookas, or no, medics don't make a difference if they're 21. Here we go, just going to plan for the future now. We've got tanks and Scorchers going to the left, so I barrage the right side, always looking. I'm trying to stay ahead of the Cryo bombs so they don't hit my Scorchers too hard, because especially if they stack up, it's almost like they're not moving. They're at like a crawling pace, and it's just painful to watch how slow the Scorchers do go. Stage 13 though, nothing too crazy, and I do like the bases where you get those like where that boom cannon is right now. There's like a massive choke point, so when you get there, all your units are going to be bunched up in one little spot. When you see those, you definitely have to be careful of rocket launchers and shock launchers, because they're hitting almost every single unit you have at once. The single shot ones, like that shock launcher behind that boom cannon, is a great example, but the single shot ones, like the boom cannons and other stuff, aren't as important to worry about. So right here, we're going to go ahead and barrage because there's a bunch of mines, and I'm going to take that cryo bomb out, which is going to slow down all the defenses remaining. And we still have full troops on stage 13 right now. You can see though that shock launcher makes this crossing a you shall not pass, very difficult place to get through. We've got those tanks just getting in there, and they're going to be able to take out that shock launcher no problem, and the Scorchers will go on and just kind of just cause chaos and hopefully distract that second shock launcher in the back. There are a few cannons. I'm going to try to go ahead and shock once again. There we go. Finally hit that shock launcher in the back with the shock bomb, and then we've got the tanks and the Scorchers all really deep in there trying to get that core down, and finally it will fall. Yes. Boom. Mega Crab stage 13 goes down. Look at that guy floating underwater with that massive claw. A couple magma fragments and a shard will be used very well in our base. So we've got a bunch of critters when it comes to stage 14, and this is going to be one of the biggest bases we've seen to date on this event right now. The left side is heavily littered with boom cannons and cannons. Now that's going to be a tank no-go zone. We pretty much want to stick to the right side when it comes to this base if we're going to be using tanks, Scorchers, or any combination of the two. We've got a bunch of mortars, which are no big deal. The Scorchers can take those out just fine. There's also a bunch of boom mines, which is, I feel lucky that we brought a bunch of Scorchers, because if you bring tanks, when you don't have to worry about mines, because Scorchers just kind of sweep the mines up and eat them up, when you use all tanks and medics, you kind of have to be wary if there's more than like 3 or 4 boom mines in one general area, because those stack up quick, and the tanks definitely don't have the health a Scorcher has, especially when facing cannons. Like cannons versus Scorcher, I feel super confident, but when it comes to tanks versus cannons, you got to be a little cautious when that happens and probably shock them up. So over here, I'm going to pull all my units over to the right side of the base. There is a shock launcher, a couple rocket launchers. I threw a bunch of critters down over there on the left side. Looking back on that now, that was probably a waste of gunboat energy, but I thought they'd get a little bit further through all those single shot buildings, but it appears the cannons and boom cannons were able to chug right through them. So once again, critters on the critter containers, that's going to be simply to distract all those rockets and cannons and sniper towers for just a few seconds. Distraction is key when it comes to the Mega Crab. Right there, that cryo bomb really doesn't do anything for our attack, but hey, we may as well explode it because it looks awesome. We've got a bunch of boom cannons on the left side of this base, which are going to come into play here later on, so I'm starting to work on them now. A med kit isn't really the most useful thing, so I throw 2 of them down just because they're so cheap right now, and everything's starting to get really expensive in my utility folder right there of all the different gunboat abilities. We've got artillery shell ready. I'm waiting to try to take out with shock right there that launcher and a couple boom cannons out of the picture, because with them gone, I can get my tanks in a position after they take out the shock launcher here, and hopefully get them in a position that the shock launcher can't hit them, and even if it can, maybe they can finish off this base and just bust through those shield generators. I'm letting them just kind of linger over there on the left side though, because they are targeting the shield generators on the bottom left of the core right there, but that boom cannon's just going to fry those tanks, so I have to pull them back. Unfortunately, a couple of them look like they can still see my tanks, and you can see right there, oh, the boom cannon just barely could not hit my tank. Now the shock launcher is still up, and obviously that would be quite a different battle outcome if it wasn't, but we could still try to fight through it, because my tanks here are out of range of most of the boom cannons. That one actually pulled up way too close in target of 2 different boom cannons, and now I have a few tanks left after that one goes down. This one's going to pull up a little too close maybe. No, it looks like they're all in a pretty good spot, but they're all being hit by that shock launcher, really slowing this progress down. So what I'm going to do here is skip forward a little bit in a few seconds because I don't need you guys to have to sit through like a full minute. And then look at this tank. He starts to pull forward as well. That's not what I want these tanks to be doing. He's almost in range of that boom cannon right there. The shock launcher just going to town. I'm kind of just toggling gunboat energy and deciding what to do. So later on here with 5 seconds left, we were able to take the shield down. And then for some reason that tank moved forward and the boom cannon took it out. And then we actually ran out of time. So that one could have been a 1-0 one and done victory. And it cost me a full attack. Those are the little things that the people at the top aren't going to be making the mistakes for, and they're going to be taking this base down in one attack. On 14, already having to burn 2 attacks to take down a base isn't very optimistic of getting into like the upper 30s, because that just means in the 20s you're definitely going to be using at least 2 attacks, probably 3 or 4. Alright, so 14's done. We're going to be heading on to stage 15, and then I'll wrap this one after that because we're already at the 10-minute mark and we're not even on stage 15 yet. Anyone have any crazy Dr. T quotes for the Mega Crab? Definitely leave them in the comments or on Twitter and I'll take a look at those. But I kind of just cruise through these levels. What I do is I kind of plan it out because when you think about it, 8 attacks with 2.5 hours, you can take a full night's sleep and your attacks still aren't charged up. So just make sure you don't go to sleep with like more than 4 attacks remaining and you won't be wasting any. I started attacking this afternoon right before recording this at about 7 out of 8 attacks with 30 minutes on the last one. So that gave me a good opportunity to get a full attacking session in, and then right when I thought I was done, I get that bonus rollover attack that kicks in. It's a good way to make the most of all of your boost on your different masterpieces and guardians. Over here we've got a bunch of cryo bombs. I'm just gonna light them all up, and we got this base like 80% frozen right now. It is just icy on the crab. It's kind of weird. The crab has all these cryo bombs on it. Maybe it should have spawned up in the snowy region because, I don't know, I guess it's just a cool new weapon, but maybe, let's all try to convince Boom Beach to put these cryo bombs on Gearheart bases, since she is the one that manufactured them on the operation levels with those conveyor belts. It would be cool to see them other places in the game, especially when this crab goes away. It's only here for 3 days. What are we going to do until the next crab, or what are we going to do on Gearheart and just in general operation bases without all these cool new defenses? I would like to see even an operation that unlocks, even if it's a high level one and we don't do it very often. How cool would an operation base be using some of these features that have been developed for the Mega Crab, like platforms or even changing platforms? Now, one idea that just popped into my head literally as I'm recording this is, what if there's like a thing you have to get to and destroy, and then it raises in another platform that is currently unavailable to your troops? So that way you'd have to, like, say go left and then you go back, and the way to go right to the core is then open, and that way it raises it up once you destroy like a big switch or something. That could be interesting to try out. I don't know in theory how the game is built, if it's able to move platforms and stuff like that, like mid-attack. That would be a key flaw if it can't do that to my whole idea right there. But just throwing in spitballing ideas that you guys I generally like to in these more extended Let's Plays anyway. So on stage 15 here, looks like the Scorcher up top will be able to take out the sniper tower and then all those shield generators, keeping this core alive. Now I've got some tanks on the bottom right here, and we have our tanks and our Scorcher all split up, and then we have a bunch of shield generators which will all be down because there are no defenses that can hit us. We actually have one tank I didn't see until just now. He's up there by the Scorcher as well. Now, when it comes to approaching this core, there's going to be a bunch of mines on the left side. Those are going to give that Scorcher some problems. I'm just worried about these boom cannons because they're going to be the real culprits that end this attack. There are a few shock launchers as well, which, I mean, this one can't be done in one at the way it's looking right now. But the second attack is just going to steamroll the core. It's like a bittersweet feeling when your second attack is super easy because it means you were super close to beating it in one, but you had to use 2. And obviously beating it in 1 does not use an attack, which is how you're going to get to the leaderboards or get further up. If you're not like even HQ 17, 18 yet, don't even worry about the leaderboards. Just use the Mega Crab as an experience to where you can rank up buildings and get a lot of loot for not as much time spent in the game. I mean, there's going to be a breaking point though. I mean, if you're level HQ 14, I don't even know if you're going to make it to the level 20, but in general, players just aren't going to make it this high because it's only a 3-day event. So right here we've got our tanks. They're really pinned down. These shock launchers are giving no mercy, and that's going to be the end of this one here. But I always let my troops play it out. Even if they can get one shot off on that cannon, hey, it helps the next attack, which helps the next attack and helps the overall progress of the base. Down go all my tanks and Scorchers, and that's going to be the end of 15. But luckily, the next attack here is just going to be, oh man, just Scorchers heading straight up the gut, and then we're going to go ahead and just use our gunboat abilities and wreck this base. So this has been stages 11 through 15, and it takes quite a bit of time. The Mega Crab still has, at the time of posting this, I want to say around 2 full days remaining. So obviously with progress getting harder and harder to achieve onward, I mean if we got to 15 in just 1 day, who knows? Let's put a realistic goal of 30 on the Mega Crab 3-day event. That would be 10 levels average per day, and I think that would be a pretty successful run at this Super Cryo Bomb Crab. Stay tuned, guys. The link in the playlist down below in the description will take you to the playlist where you can see all the Mega Crab events and stages that we're able to get to, as well as the old ones if you want to reminisce about that original Mega Crab. As we destroy the Mega Core right here on stage 15, I'm going to wrap it up, guys, and as always, for everything Boom Beach and Mega Crab, you know what to do because you're already doing it. Keep it tuned right here. I'm nickatnyte, and I'll talk to you guys in the next episode.